Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. So glad you could join me. This one's all about the pyramids, the Great Pyramid, and whether or not it's a Mandela effect. Me personally, I know that the Mandela effect is definitely a real phenomenon, but this is not one of my 100% items. It does seem like they're different, but I can't say for sure. I'm about 75% it's a Mandela effect, and that's probably more due to the residue. I feel there's a lot of residue left over, but just the way the perspective that the picture was taken in can throw it off as far as the size of the pyramids. But there are books. Take a look at this book. It's named after the Great Pyramid, yet it doesn't have the Great Pyramid on the cover. It's got the one next to the Great Pyramid. If we were actually there, the Great Pyramid would be to the right of where this picture was taken. But I do know that residue is sort of a double-edged sword, because if you don't believe in the Mandela effect, then the residue just serves the purpose of saying this is why people are confused about it, all this bad information going around about it. But I did have a reading from the Law of One I wanted to share with you all. And please, if you believe that the pyramids changed, listen to this text from the Law of One that came out in 1981 and see if you can find some residue within what Ra says. It seemed like there could be some stuff in there, but it could go both ways, so, But at any rate, it's got a lot of great information about how the pyramids were built and what they were used for. It's an interesting read. So let's get right to it. Questioner: were you responsible for the building of the pyramid? And what was the purpose of the pyramid? I am Ra. The larger pyramids were built by our ability using the forces of one. The stones are alive. It has not been so understood by the mind-body-spirit distortions of your culture. The purposes of the pyramids were two. Firstly, to have a properly oriented place of initiation for those who wished to become purified and initiated channels for the Law of One. 2. We wished then to carefully guide the initiates in developing a healing of the people whom they sought to aid and the planet itself. Pyramid after pyramid charged by the crystal and initiate were designed to balance the incoming energy of the one creation with the many and multiple distortions of the planetary mind, body, spirit. In this effort, we were able to continue work that brothers within the Confederation had effected through building of other crystal-bearing structures, and thus complete a ring, if you will, of these about the Earth's surface. Questioner: at the last session we had two questions we were saving for this session. One having to do with the possible capstone of the Great Pyramid at Giza. The other, heavy blocks. I know these questions are of no importance at all with respect to the Law of One, but it was my judgment, which you may correct, that this would provide an easy entry for the reader of the material. We are very grateful for your contact, and will certainly take suggestions about how we should proceed with this. This is just one guess. I am Ra. I will not suggest the proper series of questions. This is your prerogative as free agent of the Law of One, having understood that our social memory complex cannot effectually discern the distortions of the societal mind-body-spirit complex of your peoples. We wish now to fulfill our teach, learning, honor, responsibility by answering what is asked. This only will suffice, for we cannot plumb the depths of the distortion complexes which affect your peoples. The first question, therefore, is the capstone. We iterate the unimportance of this type of data. The so-called Great Pyramid had two capstones. One was our design and was of smaller and carefully contrived pieces of the material upon your planet which you call granite. This was contrived of crystalline properties, and for the proper flow of your atmosphere via a type of what you would call chimney. At a time when we as people had left your density, the original was taken away and a more precious one substituted. It consisted in part of a golden material. This did not change the properties of the pyramid, as you call it, at all, and was a distortion due to the desire of a few to mandate the use of the structure as a royal place only. Do you wish to query further upon this first question? Questioner: what did you mean by chimney? What was its specific purpose? Ra: there is a proper flow of your atmosphere which, though small, freshens the whole of the structure. This was designed by having airflow ducts, as this instrument might call them, situated so that there was a freshness of atmosphere without any disturbance or draft. Questioner: how are the blocks moved? I am Ra. You must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortion of your peoples. This is an obvious point well known to your peoples, but little considered. This energy is intelligent. It is hierarchical, much as your mind-body-spirit complex dwells within a hierarchy of vehicles and retains therefore the shell or shape or field and the intelligence of each ascendingly intelligent or balanced body. So does each atom of such a material as rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the infinite energy of the physical or chemical rock body is put into contact with that infinite power which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they human or rock. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates to its physical vehicle, and that splitting and moving which is desired is then carried out through the displacement of the energy field of rockness from finity to a dimension which we may conveniently call simply infinity. In this way, that which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. This is, of course, the mechanism by which many things are accomplished which are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance. Questioner: I am reminded of this statement approximately. If you had enough faith, you could say to a mountain to move, and the mountain would move. I assume this is approximately what you are saying, and I am assuming that if you are fully aware of the law of one, then you are able to do these things. Is that correct? I am Ra. The vibratory distortion of sound, faith, is perhaps one of the stumbling blocks between those of what we may call the infinite path and those of the finite proving understanding. You are precisely correct in your understanding of the congruency of faith and intelligent infinity. However, one is a spiritual term, the other more acceptable perhaps to the conceptual framework distortions of those who seek with measure and pen. Questioner: then if an individual is totally informed with respect to the law of one and lives, and is the law of one, such things as the building of a pyramid by direct mental effort would be commonplace? Is that what I am to understand? Am I correct? I am Ra. You are incorrect in that there is a distinction between the individual power through the law of one and the combined or societal memory complex mind-body-spirit understanding of the law of one. In the first case, only the one individual, purified of all flaws, could move a mountain. In the case of mass understanding of unity, each individual may contain an acceptable amount of distortion, and yet the mass mind could move mountains. The progress is normally from the understanding which now seek to a dimension of understanding which is governed by the laws of love, and which seeks the laws of light. Those who are vibrating with the law of light seek the law of one. Those who vibrate with the law of one seek the law of foreverness. We cannot say what is beyond this dissolution of the unified self with all that there is, for we still seek to become all that there is, and still are we Ra, thus our paths go onward. Questioner: was the pyramid then built by the mutual action of many of your peoples? I am Ra. The pyramids which we thought built were constructed from thought forms created by our social memory complex. Questioner: then the rock was created by thought in place rather than moved from somewhere else, is that correct? I am Ra. We built with everlasting rock the Great Pyramid, as you call it. Other of the pyramids were built with stone moved from one place to another. Questioner: what is everlasting rock? I am Ra. If you can understand the concept of thought forms, you will realize that the thought form is more regular in its distortion than the energy fields created by the materials in the rock, which has been created from thought to finite energy and beingness in your, shall we say, distorted reflection of the level of the thought form. May we answer you in any more helpful way? Questioner: this is slightly trivial, but I was wondering why, in that case, the pyramid was made of many blocks rather than the whole thing being created at once. I am Ra. There is the law, which we believe to be one of the more significant primal distortions of the law of one. That is the law of confusion. You have called this the law of free will. We wish to make a healing machine of time-space ratio complex, which was as efficacious as possible. However, we did not desire to allow the mystery to be penetrated by the peoples in such a way that we became worshipped as builders of a miraculous pyramid. Thus it appears to be made, not thought. Questioner: does the shape of the pyramid have effect upon the initiation? I am Ra. As we began the last session question, you have already recorded in your individual memory complex the first use of the shape having to do with the body complex initiation. The initiation of spirit was a more carefully designed type of initiation as regards the time-space ratios about which the entity to be initiated found itself. If you will, picture with me the side of the so-called pyramid shape, and mentally imagine this triangle cut into 4 equal triangles. You will find the intersection of the triangle, which is at the first level on each of the 4 sides, forms a diamond in a plane which is horizontal. The middle of this plane is the appropriate place for the intersection of the energies streaming from the infinite dimensions and the mind-body-spirit complexes of various interwoven energy fields. Thus it was designed that the one to be initiated would, by mind, be able to perceive and then channel this, shall we say, gateway to intelligent infinity. This, then, was the second point of designing this specific shape. May we provide a further description of any kind to your query? Questioner: as I understand it, then, the initiate was to be on the center line of the pyramid, but at an altitude above the base as defined by the intersection of the 4 triangles made by dividing each side into 4 triangles. Is that correct? Ra: this is correct. Questioner: then at this point there is a focusing of energy that is extra-dimensional in respect to our dimensions. Am I correct? Ra: you may use that vibratory sound complex. However, it is not totally and specifically correct, as there are no extra dimensions. We would prefer the use of the term multi-dimensions. Questioner: is the size of the pyramid a function and effectiveness of the initiation? I am Ra. Each size pyramid has its own point of streaming in of intelligent infinity. Thus, a tiny pyramid that can be placed below a body or above a body will have specific and various effects depending upon the placement of the body in relationship to the entrance point of intelligent infinity. For the purposes of initiation, the size needed to be large enough to create the expression of towering size so that the entrance point of multidimensional intelligent infinity would completely pervade and fill the channel. the entire body being able to rest in this focused area. Furthermore, it was necessary for healing purposes that both channel and the one to be healed be able to rest within that focused point. Questioner: is the large pyramid at Giza still usable for this purpose, or is it no longer functioning? I am Ra. That, like many other pyramid structures, is like the piano out of tune. It, as this instrument would express, plays the tune, but oh so poorly. The disharmony jangles the sensitive. Only a ghost of the streaming still remains due to the shifting of the streaming points, which is in turn due to the shifting electromagnetic field of your planet, due also to the discordant vibratory complexes of those who have used the initiatory and healing place for less compassionate purposes. Questioner: would it be possible to build a pyramid and properly align it and use it today with materials we have available? I am Ra. This is quite possible for you to build a pyramid structure. The material used is not critical, merely the ratio of time-space complexes. However, the use of the structure for initiation and healing depends completely upon the inner disciplines of the channels attempting such work. Questioner: my question then would be, are there individuals incarnate upon the planet today who would have the necessary inner disciplines to, using your instructions, construct and initiate in a pyramid they built, and then possibly do it again? Is this within the limits of what anyone can do on the planet today, or is there no one available for this? I am Ra. There are people, as you call them, who are able to take this calling at this nexus. However, we wish to point out once again that the time of the pyramids, as you would call it, is past. It is indeed a timeless structure. However, the streamings from the universe were, at the time we attempted to aid this planet, those which required a certain understanding of purity. This understanding has, as the streamings revolve and all things evolve, changed to a more enlightened view of purity. Thus, there are those among your people at this time whose purity is already one with intelligent infinity, without the use of structures. Healer, patient, can gain healing. May we speak further to some specific point? Questioner: I understood you to say in an earlier session that pyramids were built to ring the earth. How many pyramids were built? I am Ra. There are 6 balancing pyramids and 52 others built for additional healing and initiatory work among your mind, body, spirit, social complexes. Questioner: what is a balancing pyramid? I am Ra. Imagine, if you will, the many force fields of the earth in their geometrically precise web. Energies stream into the earth planes, as you would call them, from magnetically determined points. Due to growing thought-form distortions and understanding of the law of one, the planet itself was seen to have the potential for imbalance. The balancing pyramidal structures were charged with crystals which drew the appropriate balance from the energy force streamings into the various geometrical centers of electromagnetic energy which surround and shape the planetary sphere. Questioner: does the balancing refer to balancing of the individual who is initiated in the pyramid, or does it refer to the physical balancing of the earth on its axis in space? I am Ra. The balancing pyramidal structures could be and were used for individual initiation. However, the use of those pyramids was also designed for the balancing of the planetary energy web. The other pyramids are not placed properly for earth healing, but for the healing of mind, body, spirit complexes. It came to our attention that your density was distorted towards what is called, by our distortion understanding of third density, a premature aging process. We were attempting to aid in giving the mind-body-spirit complexes of third density on your planetary sphere more of a time-space continuum in one incarnation pattern in order to have a fuller opportunity to learn, teach the laws or ways of the primal distortion of the law of one, which is love. Questioner: I will make this statement. You can tell me if I am correct. The way I understand it, the balancing pyramids were to do what we call increase the lifespan of entities here so that they would gain more wisdom of the law of one while in physical at one time. Is that correct? I am Ra. This is correct. However, the pyramids not called by us by the vibrational sound complex balancing pyramids were more numerous and were used exclusively for the above purpose and the teach learning of healers to change and enable these processes. Questioner: could you give me more information on the energy fields of the body as relates to the right and left brain, and if this is somehow related to the pyramid shape as far as energy focusing goes? I am a little lost at exactly how to get into this line of questioning, so I will ask that question. I am Ra. We are similarly at a loss at this line of answering. We may say that the pyramid shape is but one which focuses the instreamings of energy for use by entities which may become aware of these instreamings. We may say further that the shape of your physical brain is not significant as a shape of concentrating instreamings of energy. Please ask more specifically, if you may, that information you seek. Questioner: you had stated that we, that is Ra, had been aided by shapes such as the pyramid, so that we could aid your people with a shape such as the pyramid. These shapes have been mentioned many, many times, and you have also stated that the shapes themselves aren't of too much consequence. I see a relation between these shapes and the energies that we have been studying with respect to the body, and I would like to ask a few questions on the pyramid to see if I might get an entry into some of this understanding. You stated you will find the intersection of the triangle, which is at the first level on each of the four sides, forms a diamond in a plane which is horizontal. Can you tell me what you meant by the word intersection? I am Ra. Your mathematics and arithmetic have a paucity of configurative descriptions which might use, without intending to be obscure. We may note that the purpose of the shapes is to work with time-space portions of the mind-body-spirit complex. Therefore, the intersection is both space-time and time-space oriented, and thus is expressed in three-dimensional geometry by two intersections which, when projected in both time-space and space-time, form one point. Questioner: I have calculated this point to be 1/6 of the height of the triangle that forms the side of the pyramid. Is this correct? I am Ra. Your calculations are substantially correct, and we are pleased at your perspicacity. Questioner: this would indicate to me that in the Great Pyramid at Giza, the Queen's Chamber, as it is called, would be the chamber for initiation. Is this correct? I am Ra. Again, you penetrate the outer teaching. The Queen's Chamber would not be appropriate or useful for healing work, as that work involves the use of the energy in a more synergic configuration rather than the configuration of the centered being. Questioner: then would the healing work be done in the King's Chamber? I am Ra. This is correct. We may note that such terminology is not our own. Questioner: yes, I understand that. It is just the common naming of the two chambers of the Great Pyramid. I don't know whether this line of questioning is going to take me to a better understanding of the energies, but until I have explored these concepts, there is nothing much that I can do but ask a few questions. There is a chamber below the bottom level of the pyramid, down below ground, that appears to be roughly in line with the King's Chamber. What is that chamber? I am Ra. We may say that there is information to be gained from this line of querying. The chamber you requested to be informed about is a resonating chamber, the bottom of such a structure, in order to cause the appropriate distortions for healing catalysts, shall be open. Questioner: the book Life Force in the Great Pyramid, they have related the Ankh shape with resonance in the pyramid. Is this a correct analysis? I am Ra. We have scanned your mind and find the phrase, working with crayons. This would be applicable. There is only one significance to these shapes, such as the crux and seta. that is, the placing in coded form of mathematical relationships. Questioner: is the 76 degrees 18-foot angle at the apex of the pyramid a critical angle? I am Ra. For the healing work intended, this angle is appropriate. Questioner: why does the king's chamber have the various small chambers above it? I am Ra. We must address this query more generally in order to explicate your specific question. The positioning of the entity to be healed is such that the life energies, if you will, are in a position to be briefly interrupted or intersected by light. This light then may, by the catalyst of the healer with the crystal, manipulate the aural forces, as you may call the various energy centers, in such a way that if the entity to be healed wills it so, corrections may take place. Then the entity is reprotected by its own, now less distorted, energy field and is able to go on its way. The process by which this is done involves bringing the entity to be healed to an equilibrium. This involves temperature, barometric pressure, and the electrical charged atmosphere. The first two requirements are controlled by the system of chimneys. Questioner: does this healing work by affecting the energy centers in such a way that they are unblocked so as to perfect the 7 bodies that they generate, and therefore bring the entity being healed into proper balance? I am Ra. We must answer in brief and state simply that the distorted configuration of the energy centers is intended to be temporarily interrupted, and the opportunity is then presented to the one to be healed to grasp the baton, to take the balanced route, and to walk thence with the distortions towards dis-ease of mind, body, and spirit greatly lessened. The catalytic effect of the charged atmosphere and the crystal directed by the healer must be taken into consideration as integral portions of this process, for the bringing back of the entity to a configuration of conscious awareness would not be accomplished after the reorganization possibilities are offered without the healer's presence and directed will. Questioner: how does the pyramid shape work? I am Ra. We are assuming that you wish to know the principles of the shapes, angles, and intersections of the pyramid at what you call Giza. In reality, the pyramid shape does no work. It does not work. It is an arrangement for the centralization as well as the diffraction of the spiraling upward light energy as it is being used by the mind-body-spirit complex. The spiraling nature of light is such that the magnetic fields of an individual are affected by spiraling energy. Certain shapes offer an echo chamber, shall we say, or an intensifier for spiraling prana, as some have called this all-present primal distortion of the one infinite creator. If the intent is to intensify the necessity for the entity's own will to call forth the inner light in order to match the intensification of the spiraling light energy, the entity will be placed in what you have called the Queen's Chamber position in this particular shaped object. This is the initiatory place and is the place of resurrection. The offset place, representing the spiral as it is in motion, is the appropriate position for one to be healed, as in this position an entity's vibratory magnetic nexi are interrupted in their normal flux. Thus a possibility-probability vortex ensues. A new beginning, shall we say, is offered for the entity in which the entity may choose a less distorted, weak, or blocked configuration of energy center magnetic distortions. The function of the healer and crystal may not be overemphasized, for this power of interruption must needs be controlled, shall we say, with incarnate intelligence. The intelligence being that one which recognizes energy patterns, which, without judging, recognizes blockage, weakness, and other distortion, and which is capable of visualizing, through the regularity of self and of crystal, the less distorted other self to be healed. Other shapes which are arched, groined, vaulted, conical, or as your teepees are also shapes with this type of intensification of spiraling light. Your caves, being rounded, are places of power due to the shaping. It is to be noted that shapes are dangerous. We are quite pleased to have the opportunity to enlarge upon the subject of shapes such as the pyramid, for we wish, as part of our honor duty, to state that there are many wrong uses for these curved shapes, for with improper placement, improper intention, or lack of the crystallized being functioning as channel for healing, the sensitive entity will be distorted more rather than less in some cases. It is to be noted that your peoples build, for the most part, the cornered or square habitations, for they do not concentrate power. It is further to be noted that the spiritual seeker has, for many of your time periods for years, sought the rounded, arched, and peaked forms as an expression of the power of the Creator. Questioner: is there an apex angle that is the angle for maximum efficiency in the pyramid? I am Ra. Again, to conserve this instrument's energy, I am assuming that you intend to indicate the most appropriate angle of apex for healing work. If the shape is such that it is large enough to contain an individual mind-body-spirit complex at the appropriate offset position within it, the 76 degrees 18-foot approximate angle is useful and appropriate. If the position varies, the angle may vary. Further, if the healer has the ability to perceive distortions with enough discrimination, the position within any pyramid shape may be moved about until results are affected. However, we found this particular angle to be useful. Other social memory complexes, of portions thereof, have determined different apex angles for different uses, not having to do with healing, but with learning. When one works with the cone, or shall we say the silo type of shape, the energy for healing may be found to be in a general circular pattern unique to each shape as a function of its particular height and width, and in the cone shape the angle of apex. In these cases there are no corner angles. Thus the spiraling energy works in circular motion. That just about does it for this episode of Unbiased and on the Fence. I do appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.